Fernandez is an exceptional Java programmer. Your ears burning yet, Obie?
That's awesome.
Can we see if we can grab him briefly? It's about the golden lock story.
Give me
The context is walking along a road and like when you're stuck and you need motivation, or maybe you're in a golden lock situation where you were doing fine in the Java world, but you chose to move out into the Ruby world.
Yeah, so actually I was doing fine. I was at ThoughtWorks. I was kind of at the height of my career. It was very frustrating though because I'd been doing Java at that point for close to 9 years. Mostly was pretty much an expert at Java. And was getting frustrated because my specialty was web programming, and as far as I was concerned, there was just a lot of troublesome kind of aspects of web programming in Java. And especially after coming off of 2 years of doing a lot of heavy JavaScript, I think my mind had kind of been prepared for moving onto a dynamic language. So I got a brief exposure to Ruby in December of 2004, and I hated it. So that was the initial kind of, that was the initial reaction of, hey,
first time.
I'm great at Java, Java IDEs are great, static typing is great, compilers, why would I want to switch? And then I got exposed to Rails in 2005, and there was a good blog activity about it, and I had a little bit of time to play with it. And what I noticed was that the same objections that people were making to Ruby and Rails at that time, especially in the Java camp, was that it was a toy, and that it was slow, and that what we had was good enough, and all these things. And those are the exact same objections that I had heard in 1996 when the mainstream was not Java, and Java was new on the scene, and Java was coming on as a new technology. It was the exact, almost word for word, same objections that what people were saying. And it really struck me as a, man, the industry is changing again. Like this seems like a reflexive point where maybe we can make a leap. So I started pushing it real heavy inside of ThoughtWorks. Faced a lot of resistance, and it was almost like the more resistance I got, the more it seemed, the more passionate it made me that this was the way to go. But it was starting over, to a large degree. It was a lot of new learning. It was a lot more work. I had a lot of energy because it was exciting. It was new. I was enthusiastic about it. But I definitely took a risk, in making that jump. So
yeah, it says the safety of your Java reputation there. I mean, you're Obie though. You don't worry about risk, right? I mean, what is it?
Yeah. So I did get criticized a lot, and I was brash. I was out there. I was like saying, Rails offers 10 times productivity benefits, and I was getting like really, really trashed by a lot of people. Got trashed in the bio blog, just in the most crass manner possible. But I took it as a badge of honor. So yeah, I mean, it was risky. It was a little scary, and there were times where it was like, okay, well, I wonder if this is going to go anywhere. But especially in terms of adoption in the enterprise, I mean, there were times where it just seemed like, wow, this is a really uphill battle.
Because you were seeing adoption from the perspective of it actually being implemented, not necessarily the hype around it from the programmers. You know what I mean? Like, I could see worrying about, because it's just now still getting into the enterprise. What gave you the courage to keep going? Just the fact that you knew the resistance was the same story over.
Well, no, I mean, it was much better than what we had, so that definitely helped. And taking an opinionated approach did seem much better. It went very much against the grain of what was the status quo at that time. I mean, what we had back then was Java, application servers with like thousands of lines of XML configuration. Your app was pretty much built with configuration. If you use Spring or whatever, it's all XML files, and just tons and tons of little components pieced together with dependency injection and like the ultimate amount of configurability, and everything was a Frankenstack. In the Java open source world, I actually worry that we're getting there in the Ruby world, but it's a separate story. But back then the status quo was you pick and choose a bunch of Java Apache projects, and then you put it on your app server, and then you pick other open source libraries, and then maybe Hibernate, maybe something else, and then and put all these things together, and then everyone had a different stack. There was no consistency. So there were big improvements, and then it was just a matter of lobbying for that alternate approach, for the opinionated, straightforward, this is, the Rails way. So
when did you finally feel like it had crossed that chasm? When did you finally feel like it was accepted? Like, when did you know that you had made the right choice finally?
I guess it was a gradual thing. I mean, you even though in my heart I was sure that I'd made the right choice, it's a very gradual thing. I can't recall like a specific.
Was that a motivator for starting Hashrocket though? Basically thinking that being frustrated with what was happening with Java and feeling like you could build something better and
No, Hashrocket came much later. I think when I went independent, so when I was able to leave ThoughtWorks, which was a big leap also, but to go on my own, I think that's the point where I figured out, hey, I'm good. So what's the worst that can happen? I have to go back to taking a job, working somewhere else, but I know that this is so established and my reputation is so established that it's not going to be a big deal. So if I had to point at one particular moment, I would say that's where I really made the leap.
Are you still an exceptional Java programmer?
No. Those days are long gone. I actually feel like, I don't know if this is relevant, but I feel like my best programming work is behind me. Like I feel like I did my best programming work in the 2002 to 2004, 2005 era. At the startup I was at, I was working 60 to 70, sometimes 80-hour weeks, and just doing really, really amazing stuff that's still in production. That's still cutting edge as far as I know, and that changed my mindset. So like once I felt like I had done the best work in my career programming, I was ready for other challenges. So
we've asked everyone else this because this book is all about being a long-term craftsman, like a Jim Wyrick, a career craftsman. We asked everyone what they wanted to be when they grow up. So
right.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
It's an interesting question. I want Hashrocket to be kind of a company that defines a way of life and a way of running a business that's really different than everything else that exists. That's just uniquely different from the alternatives and uniquely better. And I think I'll always have to be a part of maintaining those core values, even if I start to separate from the day-to-day. But I'm not planning on separating from the day-to-day for at least 5 to 10 years. So I'm very much committed to growing this into a big sustainable company that'll go on for 20, 30 years. And what do I want to be when I grow up? I don't know. It's so weird nowadays because like people don't even talk about retirement as much anymore, right? Like when I think of retiring for whatever that means, I just think of not having day-to-day operational responsibilities and just being able to focus on writing and painting and making music and doing fun things. So I guess that's what I want to be.
Any questions from the chat room?
No.
Okay. Thanks,
Can we
man.
get back to it?
Go get some money. So there you have it. Obie Fernandez was an exceptional Java programmer.